All right, welcome to the channel. I have another story. This one is this person. She's quite incredible, and she has an amazing journey. And so I asked if she could join the channel and kind of speak um, about her journey. So I have Kendra with me. Kendra, thank you so much for being on the channel.
Of course.
So let's start from the beginning. How did all this really start?
I don't exactly know how it started. I remember having my first panic attack though on my 13th birthday. And then I didn't really like grasp onto anything then, and it went away. And then I was in a really bad car accident when I was 15 that triggered major anxiety while being in a car with any weather that wasn't sunny. But then once I turned 16 and got my license, I was as free as they came. I could get in my car, I could go. It was my favorite thing to do, is put music on and just drive. And then I didn't have much anxiety for a long, long time. And then once I got pregnant with my daughter, it was one day. I'm literally driving down a road that I drive down all the time. I was going to my massage appointment, and out of nowhere, this fear that I have never experienced in my life came over me. And in that split second, it was like I could not drive that road. So I turned off the main road and went the back way to my massage appointment, got done with my massage, but I still couldn't drive that road. And then all of a sudden, it was like those glass walls just kept, from that point on, just kept closing in on me. And I got to the point where I couldn't drive farther than probably like, I don't know, a 5 to 10 mile radius. And then I had my daughter, had horrible anxiety throughout my pregnancy, and then had my daughter. Anxiety got better, but the driving never came back. My bubble still stayed my bubble. And then fast forward to a couple of years later, I joined, I put myself through beauty school and had to drive. So I had to, through therapy and stuff, I pushed myself outside of that comfort zone, and I was able to drive to my school. So I did that for a year, but then before you knew it, my bubble went right back to where it was prior to school. But again, I didn't have bad anxiety. It was just with driving. I still could get on planes at this time in my life. I could go grocery shopping. I could live life normally. So fast forward then to June of 2017. And I had been feeling some pretty bad panic up until this day, but it would like last for a little while. And throughout my whole anxiety journey for years and years and years, I've had prescription to Xanax. And so I'm really terrified of like prescription medication and drugs and all that kind of stuff. So I would only take like half a pill if I had to, but that always did the trick. And then I wouldn't have any panic again, or, any anxiety for quite a while. But one day I went to bed at the beginning of June, and I woke up and my whole life was different. It was the scariest, craziest. I thought I was losing my mind. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I really thought I was losing my mind.
So this was June of 2017. Mm-hmm. What were some of the things that happened after that?
So I went on, I couldn't eat. I literally would eat like a tiny little nut and cheese and fruit snack pack a day. I carried around a water bottle. It was almost like my safety blanket. It was really weird. I had to have water everywhere I went. I ended up, my daughter and I, at the time I was married, and my husband is a professional MMA fighter, and he was in a training camp. So my daughter and I were staying with my mom because, like I said, I didn't know what was going on with me. I kind of went down that whole path of like a spiritual awakening and what what they call a dark night of the soul. And so I grasped onto that for a while, which helped me. It really, really did, because my mom had gone through something similar to what I was going through. And so she was able to kind of coach me through that. But I couldn't even be a mom. Like there were days that I literally couldn't even like leave the house or get out of the room, or going to the grocery store, even with my mom, or riding in a car and being in traffic was like, I don't know. I literally felt like I was going to die. So that lasted, it was really, really bad until, so that was the beginning of June. At the end of July is when my husband had his fight. And I remember I slowly started getting ready, like a week or so before his fight. Like my life was makeup and fashion and everything, and it just all went away. I wore the same like 3 or 4 pair of outfits for like 2 months. Like I didn't get out of leggings, but my husband's fight was coming up and I couldn't miss his fight. And so I powered through and I went to his fight. But it was, the whole time I was there, it was horrible and terrifying, and I hated it until after the fight was over. And then for the first time in almost 2 months, I almost felt normal. So that gave me like a glimpse of hope. Like, okay, I don't feel like I need to go to like an insane asylum, you know, like I felt like I was actually like gonna be okay. And then from that point on, August was pretty hard still. September, I started feeling better. By the end of September was my little brother. He got married, and I had the first drop of alcohol that night that I had since the beginning of June. Had a really fun night that night. And then I remember I don't remember a ton at that point, but going into October, it was still there. But at this point I was driving again by myself, very short distances, because I had not driven by myself from June until probably October, beginning of October. Literally people were like driving me around places. And then so go from October to December. From October to December, I had this bright idea to open a business, and in the middle of all of this, and it kind of just started happening. And then my sister had surgery after December, like after Christmas, I mean, and it was really snowy here, and her husband had to take her car, and so she had, you know, kids at home, had just had surgery, so it forced me out of my comfort zone even more. So I started driving like 2 towns away, which is like 9 miles maybe, but it was a big step because I hadn't done that in over 6 months. And then from there, I briefly remember when we were starting to get my bar going, I remember that there would be some uncomfortable moments, but I just pushed through them. And then pretty soon it was like I was back to living normal life. I still couldn't drive by myself outside of my original bubble, but I was able to, like, I felt like I was out of the depths of that. And then I rode the crazy wave of opening a new business and it being really successful and a whole nother journey. And it was fun and exciting. And then come June of 2019, and my whole life just out of nowhere, I left my 20-year relationship. I just one day packed a bag and grabbed my daughter and left. And it wasn't necessarily anxiety. I was having some anxiety around being with my husband at the time. And I think if I would have known back then what I know now, I don't know if I would have left. But I was still on the whole like spiritual path. And then I almost felt like it was like you know, like my inner self having to go, which I did. I mean, I did for a reason, but I had quite a bit of anxiety for a couple months. It only lasted though, probably from the end of June to like the end of July. And then I kind of pulled myself out of it, went on with life. But from August to, my gosh, March of 2020, I was having some pretty bad anxiety. I would get these waves. I'd be working and I would get these waves of dizziness that scared the crap out of me. Like I thought I was going to pass out. So whether I was working in the coffee bar or if I was working at my bar, like it scared me. But again, I was able to drink again. I was able to like go out, but then maybe I was drinking a little bit too much. So I didn't have to feel what I was feeling. But again, at this point, I didn't know what was happening. So come March, the pandemic happened. And out of nowhere, I'm talking to my mom. My daughter and I live with my mom and my stepdad at the time, or he's still my stepdad, but we lived there at the time. And out of nowhere, her and I are talking, and this woman just falls over in front of me and faints. And it was so scary, so scary to me that it put me into a whole nother. That is when I would say I had a relapse. Like that's when I had a, what do we call it? Oh my God, I forget.
Setback?
Setback. Thank you. So that is when I had a setback, was when my mom fainted in front of me. Even though I can look back both times now and I can literally remember the panic and the anxiety I was feeling leading up to the setback. So I feel like if I would have known what was happening, if I would have been able to nip it in the butt, like when I was having my warning signs, it would have been a completely different story. But this last one, I didn't go as deep. I was able to go to the grocery store. I was able to still drive by myself. Lots of panic, but I did it. I was able to still work, even though I didn't really have to work because the pandemic, we were shut down for months. But it's lasted longer this time. So even though I didn't go as deep and as dark, it's now the recovery process is, I mean, it's now been, I don't even remember when I called you, but it's now almost been a year that my setbacks started. But then once I reached out to you and I found your video because you Googled dizziness, I think, and anxiety, because I didn't have dizziness my first time around. My biggest thing there was my intrusive thoughts that time. Yeah. But I found your video and joined the Facebook group. And it was like not long after that, I joined the actual program. And from then it's just been uphill, or, uphill, downhill, whatever, whichever one you say. It's been good ever since then.
So I'm sure with your mom fainting, it must have reinforced the dizziness and you probably passing out, right? It must have been, right?
Yeah, I also feel like too, prior to that, like a year before that, my husband had his first seizure. And out of nowhere, he's 35 years old and just all of a sudden starts having seizures. And he had a seizure in March and then had another seizure June 1st. And then I left him the middle of June. And now I think he had 1 or 2 seizures since I've left him, but he hasn't had a seizure. But so not only did that happen in front of me, but then, and which, it's scary, trying to figure out what's going on. And then seeing my mom and then me being dizzy, and it just was like, am I going to faint? Am I going to have a seizure? So then my mind just
naturally, I totally understand.
Yeah.
So, So what were some of the things that you had tried to kind of fix it a little bit?
Oh man, I tried right away. I tried 2 different antidepressants, and they took me so incredibly low. I could not be on them.
Mhm.
And so, sorry, someone was trying to call me. And so I I just couldn't do it. So then I had someone who would come over every few days and give me an IV of all these vitamins, like vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D. I mean, I would just go get IVs once or twice a week. Um, I tried reading. I mean, gosh, I was glued to YouTube videos. But again, my first one was over spiritual awakening stuff, which it helped me. It really, really did. But I now know, my opinion is now is whether you call it a spiritual, gosh, I'm so sorry, whether you call it like a spiritual awakening or whether you call it anxiety or whatever it is, I think it all leads you back to, you have to trust yourself and you have to go within. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally agree. We had a mentorship call this morning, and it was like I said to them that, like, before this happened, even like once I fully got out of this, I felt like I was awake. I felt like, in fact, maybe even my whole life I was kind of asleep. And then, like, going through something like this, it kind of forces you to wake up a little bit in a different way. There's like a deeper layer of knowing yourself, I think, that um, I don't see how people will get this unless they fall into the anxiety cycle. And I try not to say that too much, because I think people, when they're struggling, when they're in the midst of it, their minds get a little bit imaginative about it. They're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So I like to stay away from it, only
Mm-hmm.
because because I know who's listening. But I agree with everything you're saying. I,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like, again, it's a journey back to yourself. And it's really made me take a step back and look at my life. Because not only have I been going through this anxiety process and the recovery process, but in the midst of it, I've been going to therapy now the last year fully. I mean, I've been going to therapy on and off for years, trying to save my marriage, trying to save myself, trying to figure out what was going on with me. But I've been going constantly this last year, and just, I don't know. I don't want to get into the whole like childhood trauma and stuff, because I don't know how that leads up to where I am today. But what I've gone through today has made me very, very open to being completely honest with myself about what I have gone through and how I've lived my life. And I have stuffed anxiety and panic attacks and not trusting myself under the rug for so long that I think that it just got to the point where it was like, okay, no more, time to clean out your suitcase and your closets and so it's led me to a place that without anxiety, I would have kept walking through life like nothing was wrong. I would have kept carrying myself like, if you would have met me 4 years ago, I was nothing like I am today. I'm going to be blunt. I just thought I was better than everybody. I just had this chip on my shoulder. I was just a mean girl, like, honestly. And this has humbled me so much to where I just go, I can still go out in public and look like I'm put together and inside be dying. And so it's made me realize, like, you have no clue what anybody else is going through, and be kind and be loving and be gentle. And it has completely changed me as a person, completely. So
So I remember when you first joined the mentorship. I remember dizziness, especially dizziness and stuff like that. That was the biggest one. And then obviously the driving stuff. What other kind of symptoms were you really experiencing?
Oh man. Nausea. I couldn't eat. Like I had no appetite. And so both times I lost like 20 something pounds in less than 30 days. I just really could not eat. Vision changes, which I then went to my eye doctor a couple months back and was like, all right, let's check my eyes. And he's like, they're totally fine. So then I talked to him about anxiety and he's like, yes, it really can affect your vision. Intrusive thoughts, but not intrusive thoughts like they were 4 years ago. The intrusive thoughts this time were just like, oh my God, is this going to be something I have to deal with the rest of my life? Like, I just want to be back to normal. What else? There's a lot. Tingling. I've had a lot of like tingles. It's so crazy how they morph, how things are different, how they come in, how they go out, how they're really intense in the morning and then you don't feel anything at night. Like it's crazy. What else have I had that's bothered me? There's gotta be more because I've had like hundreds. I'm serious.
Looking back, it's the same thing with me. It's like, oh yeah, I did have that, but it's not until someone else mentions it because I was like, oh, because there's so much and it's been such a long time for me that it's like, I just forget.
Yeah. I feel like, people will mention things. I'll be like, oh my God, that happened to me too. I can't think of anything right now, except for, I never had the DPDR. Yeah, I've never had that. And honestly, I'm just going to be straight honest. I never even looked up what it was because I didn't want to get it in my head and then manifest it. Because
no, it's true, right? Because especially when you're that hyper aware of how you feel, if you even look up something, you'll start seeing it, you'll start feeling it, especially because you're so hyper aware. So it's like wherever your attention goes, whatever it goes to, it grows. So that was totally fine.
So my biggest though is dizziness. And so still today, today, if it's been years since I even would take bubble baths because I was so afraid that, and this was even before I really got deep into my anxiety, but it was like I would feel like I was going to faint in the bathtub. My whole anxiety has been around me fainting. I don't know why, but it has been. So I didn't take bubble baths, but now, oh my gosh, you guys, I take them every day. I love my bubble baths. But dizziness by far is the worst symptom that I've had this round. Not this round, my last round. I'm not having another round. But so when my anxiety is really, really high and I start feeling a little bit dizzy, I know it's anxiety. So I'm at a point in my recovery journey that I don't go pop half a Xanax anymore. There are days, and I'm not going to lie, there was probably one, I don't know, month or a month and a half ago where, this is going to sound horrible, I didn't have time to sit with it and let it run its course. And I took half a Xanax because I literally had to get stuff done. So I did do that. But other than that, I really have learned to just sit with it. Last week, this is not a joke, or was it Tuesday? I don't know. One of the days I'm taking my daughter to school. I drop her off like normal. I'm driving down that same damn road that I couldn't drive, out of nowhere, I couldn't drive. And out of nowhere, the craziest panic came over me as I'm driving this road. And I get the vision changes. I get dizzy. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to pull over and let this pass? I didn't. I got through it, but it was the shallow breathing started. But that is the first time in months, probably since October, that I've had anything like that. But it literally lasted, instead of lasting an hour or more, it lasted, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. But the difference is I didn't cling on to that happening and think it's going to happen again. I just labeled it as a panic attack and it was anxiety related. and I was able to go on with my day, you know. And people who have really intense and like panic attacks, it wipes you out, like emotionally and energetically, it like wipes you out. So I was a little drained for a while, but I didn't let my mind like run with how scary it was this time. So, and I didn't take a Xanax, nothing. So,
yeah. So do you notice how like for you this and for everybody, right? The symptom, they still come, but they like come with a lot less intensity a lot of time, but a lot less frequency too.
oh yeah.
Over time too, Kendra, you and I were talking, like it's gonna keep getting better. That's what a lot of people like. Sometimes they're so focused on, is it going to come back? Is it going to be there? Is it going to be there? I don't want this to be there. But it's like, if you just focus on it long term, it does go away, and you're seeing it, how it goes away, but it's not overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But so how was your experience in the mentorship? Like hearing everybody else and like what they were going through and stuff like that.
It life-changing, honestly. When you go through this alone, whether you have people who come into your life, I mean, I had an army of women come to my rescue through both of them, but it's so different because none of them explained what they were going through as anxiety, and then they were able to recover. All they would say to me was, I've been through something similar like this, and now here I am. Right. So I've tried the EMDR, I've tried the therapy. I've tried all of the vitamins and herbs, and I mean, you name it. Yeah. I've tried it. I've tried electric shock therapy. I wanted to do anything I could to get out of feeling how I was feeling. So when I finally found you and I found them, well, that one video truly made me go, it was almost like a little tiny switch on my knob that went, okay, well, I'm really probably not going to faint and I'm not going to die. So that was a big help for me. Then the mentorship happened, and just to be able to be with people who are going through the exact same thing as you are right now, plus have people who are at each stage of the recovery process, it just gives you hope. Obviously, all of our journeys are different and they all have a different timeline. And some people might come into this recovery program and the mentorship program and it clicks for them like that. I don't feel like that happened for me. I think that it took a good like month or two of me being on any possible call I could for me to finally start feeling better. But when did I join? Was it August?
I don't know.
July?
It was like, yeah, August. I was thinking like June or August. But you did have moments of clarity.
Yeah.
You did have, we see it. It's so crazy. It's like when we see it as coaches, it's like a light bulb and we like see it. Like, I don't know if they realize, you've had them for sure. And so, yeah, with quarantine, every day is confusing. I don't know.
Well, I remember I talked to you and I wanted to do it. And then I kind of pulled back and I was like, oh, that's a lot of money to invest. But then honestly, I am going to keep throwing money at all this other stuff, you know, and therapy is not cheap. EMDR therapy is not cheap. So I'm sitting here going, there is like and then I did a lot of research too on you. I watched a lot of your videos, and it was a decision I finally made. So I know it took me a couple of weeks to finally make that decision from when I first reached out to you. So let's just say August I started. Now I want to go back and find out because I'm curious. But end of October, I still have not been on a plane. I have been terrified of a plane for almost 4 years, but I'm going to get on a plane. Maybe not right now because I don't want to wear a mask. But so let's say we started in August. By the middle of October, I was on my way to Arizona in a car full of girls for a weekend trip that we went down to the Seahawks game and went and saw a friend of mine. And even though I had a panic attack, that was my last panic attack that I had had since, you know, the little one I had last week or whatever. But I had a panic attack there, like the second or third day we were there. It was the day of the actual game we were going to. And I'm like, over my dead body, did I drive all the way here to come to this game and I not go because of anxiety? So I did take half a Xanax, but I went, and it was, oh my God, it was so amazing.
Yeah, and there's a reason why it took so long for you to like have a later panic attack. It was honestly because you had it, you responded, and you kept going. And what most people, they spiral, right? Why did this happen? And they try to stop it. And then the chance of it happening again quickly happens again. And so like, there's a reason why. And so you'll see, Kendra, you're seeing it already, but you're going to see it more in the future, is that these things just separate more and more. Sorry, Siri just went off.
Okay.
But it's like, it's just going to keep, you're going to have bigger bouts of just like clarity.
Yeah.
But I remember that. I remember even Caesar came to visit you. And he was like, yo, Kendra's crushing it. Like, she's doing so well. I remember that too.
Yeah, that was
really, I was like, what? I want to be there.
That was so awesome. That was so
what was the chance of that? That was random too, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, and for me to be working and for me to even be able to see his message, and it just was.
He was like, guess who I'm with? And he just like showed me. I was like, what? I was like, that was mind blowing. That was wild.
Yeah, that was cool. Another thing I want to say, I remember a symptom. It was, I could always fall asleep fine. I never had an issue falling asleep, but I would wake up multiple times in the night. And there were times I would wake up at like 1:45 or 2:30 with a full on panic attack. My heart racing, my mouth was dry, I'm dizzy, the room is spinning. I'm dying. I'm sorry. I'm literally dying. And it would last hours. I'm not joking. I would literally not be able to go back to sleep until sometimes like 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm running on like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. Yeah. I don't know how your body does it, but you make it through. Like, you think you have to have like 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep. No, when you have nights that are like 3 hours nights in a row, for some, I don't know how, but your body's just okay. So, but now I'll wake up in the middle of the night. I'm still not to the point where I really I might sleep through the night, but I'm not really resting very well. But I'm not waking up with panic attacks anymore. And even if I do wake up in the middle of the night, I can go back to sleep fairly quickly. But, so that was a major thing for me, because that's been like years, like not even a joke. That's been a long time that's happened.
Yeah, I would wake up, same. I would wake up. It was weird. I feel like my body was so depleted from the anxiety that I could fall asleep too. But like, I couldn't stay asleep, and I would wake up with panic attacks. Like, we did this video. My mom was in the video, and she was talking about how a grown man, I was like 22 or something, I would go in her room and be like, Mom, I can't sleep. And she was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, my heart. And like, I'm just like, I'm not feeling good. And this was like at 3 or 4 in the morning. But what happened is that once I started responding, it would still wake me up, but it would pass through very quickly. And what happened was sometimes I'd even fall asleep. Over time, it just stopped happening. It's almost like it left before it came.
Yep.
And so now, like, I just sleep fully, no issues. I've honestly forgotten how morning anxiety feels like, but like, but that's how it was for me too. It was gradual, like that.
Another thing I did too is with my dizziness, I thought I had vertigo. So I went to a ear, nose, and throat doctor. And they were like, oh yeah, you have vertigo. So they did their whole thing on me. And no, I did not have vertigo. Like, I did not have it. But I'm now noticing, and this has just been the last few weeks, I'm dreaming again, and I'm remembering my dreams. So I am not kidding. I have not dreamt in probably close to 4 years. And I used to dream. Like, I was like that person that was like, oh, I had this dream last night and I have not dreamt. And the last like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like waking up and I'm dreaming. And I know to some people that might sound crazy, but to me, it's almost like I feel like my head's getting clear again. Like my emotional body is starting to clear out. So like I said, I'm reading, I'm watching, and I'm meaning YouTube videos as far as like things that don't have anything to do with anxiety, necessarily. I'm taking bubble baths, and I'm doing things that I truly have not done in years. And another thing I couldn't do is watch TV. I couldn't watch commercials. I couldn't watch the news. I couldn't listen to like music with cuss words in it. I'm feeling better when I start like jamming like that gay rap music,
Rap music.
I'm better. I'm getting better. But no, I couldn't watch any of like the medication commercials where they had all those side effects. I was like, oh my God, why?
Yeah.
Yes. Like, anyways, it's been a ride, but I would not trade it for anything though, because not only through this whole journey, I felt really guilty having my daughter be so close to me and see me go through this, but for her to see me go through it and get out of it is going to be so much more of a positive like experience for her. Because someone asked yesterday, is anxiety disorder or panic disorder genetic? I don't think we're ever going to know the answer to that. But what I do feel like, because my grandma had it, my mom had it, like I had it, my daughter, I feel like already is showing symptoms. But once somebody truly goes through it and doesn't numb it away, meaning medication or alcohol or shopping or whatever it might be, once someone, not saying medication's bad, I'm not saying that at all. I tried it last time too. But once someone fully recovers and gets through it, I feel like it's just going to be that much better for anybody after them anyways, So with my daughter being able to see and me being able to like walk her through kind of and help her put into words what she's feeling, I hope gets to a point where she never hits the darkness of it,
Yeah, it won't. They won't. A couple of things, you'll catch them, but they've seen it real time. They've seen it real life, right? It's like you've met people that say I've gone through it, but it's something else seeing somebody go through it and come out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot more powerful, especially with anxiety, because you can't tell, right? You're walking down the street, you don't know who's struggling, who's not. But if you see somebody fall, you see somebody come back up, that's very inspiring.
Yeah.
And that really helps. Okay. Yeah.
Other thing too, I want to say, what I've learned from my first, what do you call like the first time that you go into something like this, where like I said, where I would have labeled it a spiritual awakening? What do you call it?
Typically, I mean, it's just I always just call it for what, like most people fell in from their first panic attack. They just didn't know. First cycle, I don't know.
Okay.
For now.
So let's say a cycle. So my first cycle of this, I realize now that like what this has shown me is I can't stuff things anymore. So instead of me, like if something like sets me off, like vibrationally, I know I need to deal with it. Like I'm not sweeping anything under the carpet anymore. And if something bothers me, I've almost like found my voice where I'm able to be like, hey, this isn't like resonating well with me. I need to like take myself out of this situation. So not only has it, I mean, it served its purpose in so many different areas. Like one of them too, is where I almost, like I said, I feel like instead of being loud and obnoxious like I used to be, I feel like now I have found like my inner voice that I have to take care of me first, because I can't fall, I don't want to fall again. So I clear it out before I put it away.
See, you've had such awareness now to it that you won't fall in, because I find people that fall in, they came out, but they didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
You now know exactly. So this in itself shouldn't become a problem again. You'll have other problems, but
Oh
this,
yeah.
like what happens is people have other problems and then that creates this problem. And then this is their new problem. That should never happen again.
Yeah.
And I don't see that ever happening again, because now it's different. The avoidance stuff in the past, now and that's genuinely how I feel too. It's like, I will have problems, but this won't be one of them.
Yep. And we'll deal with it. Even the problems that maybe would have been like a mini setback before, or it might have been cause anxiety. It doesn't really cause anxiety anymore. Like this is going to sound crazy, but through the pandemic, through my divorce, through everything, through anxiety, I have gone on to like being with my girlfriends, and I go out and hang out and party a lot, right? That was a stage of mine that I went through. Well, in the beginning of that, my hangovers were horrific. The anxiety, oh my gosh. Well, I hate to even like gauge it from this, but once my hangovers started feeling like just regular hangovers, I'm like, all right, I'm getting better. My anxiety's not getting triggered. So, there was something else too that I remembered. I don't remember, but anyways, I'm getting better, and I am so beyond thankful and grateful and for this mentorship program. And if I knew anybody that was going through anxiety right now, hands down, I would say skip all of the shit I did and go right to this, because this is where the pot of gold is at.
Yeah,
for sure.
We all, like Kendra, like our stories are so similar too, right? Like everybody's is, and like even though it's like we manifested differently and like different life experiences, like God, the amount of money I spent trying everything, and I was just like, we were all the same, like we were just sufferers, like not really knowing. That's exactly, I think when I created, that was the whole idea. It was like, just focus on what works. Like all this other stuff people are trying to sell and stuff like that, let's just get people out and not even have them rely on us. And you've done an awesome job. The team and I were talking, we were like, dude, like, it's very hard, even for you, Kendra, even maybe right now, you see the progress, but it's for some reason, it's always harder to see your own progress. Even when you notice there's progress, but like from the outside, it's day and night. Like, it's so like you're different too. Like I could tell, like, oh, okay, this is how Kendra is. Because in the beginning, like when I first met you, like people's personality kind of comes back, and you're just like,
oh yeah,
this is how somebody is.
Yeah.
You don't really know that in the beginning. And so I mean, really, you've done a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely notice progress in myself 100%. When I know that I am finally like to that like recovery word is when I can get in my car and have to go somewhere and I don't even bat an eye. So that's my personal like,
yeah,
here I so
yeah. And so now it's really like now it's like a game of consistency. It's just keep doing what you're doing. You're probably gonna get but like whenever mass and stuff, but like now it's just a game of consistency. When that moment happens, you'll look back and you'll realize you were doing that before. It's almost like once you're at a stage where you're like, this won't happen again, it's like whatever you thought you were doing, you've been doing it for a while already without realizing. It's just when you look back, you're like, oh yeah, like that thing is, oh yeah, I don't really think about it too much anymore. When did I stop thinking? So it's not as eventful as what people think. People think it's like, I conquered this. It's almost like it just becomes irrelevant. And you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. And you never think about, this will be a problem again. But I think with you, Kendra, you know everything to do. You've been doing a great job. Now what you just need is more time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely on the home stretch. Like, I mean, when I first started talking to you, like I knew I was moving and I didn't even know how I was going to live on my own with my daughter. Like it
I remember.
terrified me for months, like months, to be here by myself. And so even after I moved, I would do everything in my power to like have a girlfriend stay, or I'd go stay at my mom's again, even though I had my amazing bed here and I'd missed it for almost a year, but I was terrified. And now it's like, people want to be like, oh, want to come stay at, nope, I want to be at home. Like, no. So it's, the progress that I have made in the last 6 months, it's unreal. So yeah.
Awesome.
And I thank you guys so much.
Of course, of course. What is something you would tell someone who's how you were 6 months, a year ago, who's like really feels like, man, like they feel like they're like you, like just like how we did, like you felt like you were the only person in the world. I did too. What would you tell that person?
You're definitely not alone. Like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Like I can't emotionally put myself back into those times, but I can mentally put myself back there. And it's scary. It is to think you're like losing your mind. B, you don't know if you really are ever going to get better. C, you hear about all of these setbacks and that scares you because you don't know how bad your setback's going to be. It is the craziest emotional roller coaster you'll ever go on in your life. But it's worth it. And you come out a different person. And why are we chosen to go through it? I don't know. I think that God chooses his strongest, most resilient soldiers. I swear.
To be honest with you, I don't think I've ever said this on this channel, but I truly feel like, I mean, it was a blessing. It was like, I feel like anxiety leads to self-development and spirituality. And I feel like it's one of those things that pushes you. And it was never your choice. And even me getting out, I felt like I got lucky because like I didn't really have like the support, but I don't know, I just got lucky. But it just makes you go in more deeper. It's like the journey never ends. It's like it starts off as an anxiety journey, but then it turns into like a self-reflective journey.
Mm-hmm.
It does. I mean, and yeah, I think the same thing. It's like, you know, and when I was in it, I was like, why did this happen to me? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. To somebody like, why did this happen? And looking back, it was literally the greatest thing that could have happened to me, because I don't know what I'd be doing right now had this not. I genuinely
right, right.
And it's literally been the biggest blessing. Like I can't, like, because I mean, people like you are in the program, people are doing better. People are going back to living, and like, I mean, what more could you say? Like, I mean, what's a better? I mean, I can't imagine a bigger blessing that, you know, we could. I have at least.
Yeah.
Watch you guys, and I mean, it's great.
I think too, something I would say is, again, please do not think that I'm against medication. This is my own experience and my own observation of my own journey. But I think that I would have hit the recovery word a lot faster if I wouldn't have gone down the medication route. I mean, what did it last? I think I was on them like 2 or 3 weeks, or turn to shopping and or drinking. So what I realized is, even though I was able to go back to drinking, and I like would have a couple and I was okay, I found that I was starting to make excuses because of other outside scenarios in my personal life with outside of anxiety. I was making excuses as to why I wanted to drink and why I wanted to party. But now that I'm being really real with myself, it had a lot to do with anxiety too. So if I think that, like, without any outside influences, I think, as horrible as it feels, I truly believe that I would have been able to be much farther along without self-medicating.
But
So
you made, like I say, I don't want to downplay the progress you made because it's incredible, especially all the coaching, because we've been with you from the first call. I mean, we were talking about it. We're like, yo, Kendra is crushing it. So it's all a journey. It's never the destination. And you've come a long way. So
thank you. Well, I'm not kidding. I can't thank you guys. I mean, it was just you, Kaylee. Well, it was you and Caesar. I talked to Kaylee on private message, and she literally said to me the other day, Kendra, if you just go back to last year when like you and I started talking, and oh my gosh, I was such a scared person at that time, but she literally came on as a coach like 2 or 3 weeks after I started the program. So now that you have like America and more, like you have more coaches now, I just think it's so.
And they're all people that fell in too. They were America was a client kind of. And so, you know, Caesar was, and now, you know, Marv's even helping out too. Yeah, it's just wild how, yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. But I feel like Marv was, when I came on, I feel like Marv was where I am now. He was starting to kind of not come on all the calls. He was starting to go back to normal living, but then he would jump on the call and he would have had like a hard day or, you know, so.
Yeah. Now he's like, dude, like, who do I help? Like, who do I help is good. And I'm like, all right. Yeah. So anyways, Kendra, thank you so much for sharing. You know, it's, I look back and I'm like, if I'd been in here, would I have shared my story? I don't know if I would have, because I think I would have just been very private, which was wrong. I think I should have shared my story in the beginning. I should have done it earlier. So I really commend, because there are people out there that like really are struggling and they're like, oh my God, Kendra is me. Like Kendra was exactly what I was, you know, and so I think I made it too much about me. You know, it's hats off for doing this, because again, you don't have to do this, but you know, you want to share, and I appreciate it.
If I could help even one person from where I was, if I could be to them what you were to me, I did my job. So, and it's if anybody's on the fence of joining this mentorship program or not, or you think it's just, oh my gosh, how do I invest that money in myself? Who else are you going to invest in? And it works. Like it truly works. Cause I don't know, but I love it. And I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I don't even care if I'm recovered. I still want to pop on the calls sometimes, because I remember being there just going, oh my God, someone give me hope. And so when someone would like pop on and be like, oh, I'm doing so much better and I'm blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, like it's so important to have every aspect of this journey as part of these calls. And because, you know, you don't want to, like, if you're on a call with a whole bunch of people that are going through the same exact thing as you, that could get depressing.
I know. And we're now in the advanced group too. So like my group's a lot of fun. We just joke around.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. So
I know, but I'll be on there.
Oh yeah, no worries. Don't worry. Don't sweat it. It's honestly, we're just joking around. We're
Perfect.
Just having fun. So
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You bet. And guys, if you guys are interested in applying for the mentorship, you guys can hit the link down below. There'll be a short video, fill out an application. If you guys are a good fit, we'll have a strategy session with you. If not, we'll give you resources. And then we also have a Facebook community giving out exclusive content. And yeah, that's it. The link will be down below. Kendra, thank you again for hopping on. And I'll see you guys in the next one.